Do you wonder why men always treat you like trash? Isn't it so frustrating to have men in your life who aren't recognizing your true value? Well, what if I told you I can give you a strategy that will scare the men away who want to treat you like trash? If you want to learn what that strategy is, then join me on today's show where we'll be discussing how to teach men how to treat you. That way you can stop being a second-class citizen to a man who you're bending over forwards for. Number one, word is bond. Now I'm going to give you a little bit of an analogy here so we can break down what this means. Let's imagine you have a boy here in which this boy is playing inside of this fenced area, right? This is a fence. Now, inside of this fence area, this little boy can run around. He can do whatever he wants. He can go on the swings. He can eat dirt. He can do whatever he feels or his heart desires. But what he can't do is he can't exit this fence. Because once he exits this fence, there's a road, there's everything that's dangerous that you don't want him to be at. Here's what you have to understand about men, is that when you tell them that something you are not going to do, right, is against your boundary, or it's just not in your character, or something that you are going to do, you want to make sure that your word is bond. Because what will happen, I can guarantee you this is going to happen, is at one point, this little boy that you told to play within the fence here and not go outside here because there's lots of fun things to do without inside this fence. At some point, this little boy will attempt to be sneaky and exit the fenced area. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but we have to understand how to deal with this and what this really means. In your relationships, you have to understand, even though you give your word on things, hey, I'm going to do this, hey, I'm not going to do that. You have to understand, you still have to anticipate there will come a crossroads in which this little boy exits the fenced area. Now you have a decision to make. Are you going to abide by what your word was on what you would or wouldn't do? Or are you going to go back on that because the vibes? Let me give you a perfect example of that. You go on a first date with a guy and you start off on this date, talking about how you like to get treated like a princess. You talk about how you want to be respected and the things that you want in a relationship. That's great. Then as the date goes on and you're vibing and things like that, right? You might mention, yeah, I'm not the type of person that I like first dates at a guy's house or, Netflixing and chilling, right? I like to be, courted and all that other good stuff. Okay. And as you're saying that, right, you're giving him your word of how you like to be treated and the way you go about relationships and the way you approach them. But then as the date goes on and the date goes really well and you're laughing and he's telling you really nice jokes and he's really funny, he's really interesting, you feel like there's a romantic connection here. Now you start saying to yourself, I like the vibe. And then he says something very interesting, right? He goes from staying in this fence space to attempting to leave the fence by saying, hey, I know, you don't like going over to guys' houses, but I feel like me and you were really vibing. And I feel like the vibes are super, 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 super duper immaculate. It's only been like 2 hours and I feel like I haven't seen you enough. Maybe me and you, we go back to my place, have some wine. Then you have a decision to make because your guy has just escaped the fence here. Okay. And you have to decide, is your word going to be your bond? Or are you going to allow him to escape the fence and say, hey, even though I told you to play within these boundaries, now that you've escaped this fenced area, what am I going to do? Am I going to react the way that I said I would react? Or is my response going to be more in line with how I feel in the moment? See, when you allow this boy to escape here, right? And he starts being a bad boy, now he's existing up out here, right? If he doesn't feel like anything is going to happen with him being or playing outside the fence, he's going to continue playing outside the fence and running around outside the fence and going wherever it is that he wants. So it's really not even just about having boundaries, because this might sound a lot like boundaries. It's also about being who you say you're going to be. Because in the opposite sense, this cannot necessarily just be a boundary where you're saying no to him. This can also be about the things that you say you're going to do for yourself in a positive sense, right? This could be about, hey, I say that I'm going to be going to the gym, 5 days a week. So this time in my day, I'm not really going to have time. right? I say I'm going to be going to a family event, or I want to work more because I want to make more money. I want to go on vacation, right? We want to show men from the beginning that your word is your bond. That way, when he sees or hears you, I should say something about yourself, about your life, about your desires, he actually takes it into account and says, okay, when she says she needs something, when she says something is important to her, when she said she's going to do something, I know it to be true, because I know action is going to come directly after that, whether it be a consequence or whether it be a positive thing. And when men can actually rely on you to stick to your word, then they know, hey, my approach to her should be in line with what she says she desires or what she says she wants, because if it's not, I know action is coming directly after that. So it's not only just about consequences or boundaries, it's also about allowing him to know what to expect from you, because he knows when you say something, you actually mean it. Point number 2 is about acceptance. Now, here's the thing that I want you to understand about this. This can be very difficult when you're dating a guy, and I don't want you to fall into this trap. See, when a guy approaches you from the start, right? He might be mesmerized by you. He might be mesmerized by your looks, by your dump truck, by your yitties, by your hair, your smile, your everything, your aura. He just loves you. He's obsessed with you. Cool. That's awesome. But one of the mistakes you can easily make is not allowing him that runway to express how amazing he thinks you are, because you don't think you're amazing. See, this has the opposite effect of what you consider to probably be humbleness. Oh, I don't even look that good. Oh, I'm disgusting today. Oh, you think I'm so beautiful. No, I'm actually ugly. I think I look like trash today. This is a horrible approach, because you're actually teaching men that they shouldn't compliment you. They shouldn't be obsessed with you. They shouldn't admire you. In fact, they should see all of your very, very detailed flaws. And there's plenty of them to go around, right? You're doing the opposite effect of being humble. In fact, you're kind of showing him, hey, I'm not as valuable or as worthy or as deserving as you're imagining in your mind. So before you even get down that train, I'm going to stop you right there or remind you of the ways that I'm not so valuable, okay? Please don't do that. What I want you to do instead, when a guy compliments you, when he shows you the fact that he thinks you're so amazing, you're so awesome, it sounds very simple in theory, right? But you have to get good at appreciation, right? AKA, we can also call it thanks for the compliment. Now, the reason that this can be so difficult is because when a guy is showing you how much he likes you or telling you how much he likes you, and you don't actually believe that you're that amazing, you can start to get in your mind, well, I've got to show him that I don't even believe that, or I've got to tell him or remind him that, I'm not all that. It could be like a tick to you, where because you have this self-belief in your own mind, you find it hard to believe that someone else could see something different in you, okay? And like I said earlier, that's a mistake, because as time goes on, instead of this cycle being a compliment and some appreciation, some thanks, some acknowledgement, hey, I know that I'm beautiful, but it's so amazing to hear you say that I'm beautiful. It doesn't change the fact that I love hearing it from you. This cycle, right, is supposed to continue over the course of time. If during this time where he's complimenting you, telling you how amazing you are, telling you how beautiful you are, instead of the appreciation and the thanks, you say, no, I'm not, right? And that's your response to what he's saying. He's going to say, I guess you're not. Okay, I guess I have to believe you. If you don't think you're beautiful, if you don't think you're luxurious, if you don't think you're a princess, if you don't think you're drop dead gorgeous, then I guess you're not. And then after a while, what you're going to realize is this cycle will come with less and less compliments, less and less appreciation, less and less obsession on your part, right? In terms of him being so enamored with you, admiring you, and loving you so much. And you'll start to hear that less and less from him. And it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because it will start to fulfill what your own belief of who you are is. See, when your man comes in with the obsession of you, that you're so amazing, and you don't believe you're that amazing, and you convince him that you're not that amazing, he then treats you like you're not that amazing. What we want instead is this cycle to be the compliment and the acknowledgement of how amazing you are. You agree, I am amazing, but I also appreciate how amazing you say that I am all the time. And then we want this cycle to continue on an everyday basis. You might be wondering, well, what does that have to do with actual treatment? Because men will treat you how they perceive you. I'm going to say it again. This is very important for this point. Men will treat you how they perceive you. So if they perceive you as someone with value, if they perceive you as the princess, if they perceive you as the woman of their dreams, they will treat you as such. Subsequently, if they perceive you as trash, if they perceive you as a peasant, if they perceive you as the scum below their shoe, they will treat you as such. So what we're doing is we're cementing his perception of you so that we can cement his treatment of you. Point number 3 is about contrast. Now, the contrast that I'm referring to when we're talking about your treatment, remember how, well, maybe if you haven't been here for a while, I tell you all, one of our pillars in the Players Club is that I want you, when you're on dates, to show men that bubbly, interesting side of yourself, not by talking a whole bunch, but making him feel like he's the most interesting person on the planet and allowing him to share and discuss and dump on you. Now, the thing that part of the reason I want that, and I want to kind of connect this to what we're doing here, is we want this contrast of what's going on when you like him, when you like his energy, when you like his treatment, so that we can contrast it with what happens when you don't, right? So we've talked about withdrawal before, but how does this work in the wrong way when you're talking about contrast? See, when a guy is being what we can describe as a bad dog, okay? He's just not acting right in the relationship, right? And your response is to get hype, or let's just say be in your masculine energy in your response by yelling, screaming, throwing a tantrum, going all over the place and trying to get him to change by maybe yelling at him and telling him how much of a bad dog he is. Unfortunately, see, the reason that guys are a lot like men is because they respond to things, dogs are a lot like men, is because dogs and men will respond to things kind of similarly. You know how if you scream and yell enough at your dog might actually make the mistake of thinking you're actually excited, because the dog can't understand language, but they do understand tone of voice. And if he's hearing your tone of voice and it sounds a little bit excited because you're angry and upset, he might actually mistake it for you being kind of like hyped up, not that you're actually mad at something that he did. So it's kind of the same idea with the men in your life. As you're yelling and you're screaming, you're thinking that you're communicating, hey, I'm upset, I'm mad, you're a bad dog. But in some ways, he's actually receiving that as, oh, wait, you're excited? Your voice is loud. You're giving me a lot of energy. That must be a good thing. Maybe I've been a good boy, in fact. And it might sound weird to you because you're saying, well, Tomisin, he can't tell that I'm upset. He can tell that you're upset, but the attention that you give to him when you're upset actually feels good. So what I want for you instead, right, when we're talking about contrast and why it's so important, right? When he acts like a bad dog, I don't want you to get hype. I want you to get silent, okay? Because when you get silent, a man starts to ask himself a lot of questions. He starts to say, well, now I'm not getting that same type of energy. Now I'm not getting that same type of interest from you. Because remember, I told you, when you go out on your dates, when you're with him, I want him to get used to the idea of how interested you are in him. I want him to get used to the dynamic in which you ask him a lot of questions. I want him to get used to the dynamic in which you're very talkative, you're very expressive, you're very deep in your feminine, right? Because all of that attention feels good. And when he's doing good, we want him to feel that attention from you. In a contrast, when he's doing bad, we don't want him to feel any of that attention from you. I know it sounds very toxic because I'm essentially kind of telling you to give him the silent treatment even in person, but that's exactly what I want you to do, because that's exactly what communicates to men something is actually wrong here. And this contrast is what shows them the best that he needs to make a change. And what's even more amazing about that is he starts to make his own decisions on how he might need to change or what needs to be addressed, because now he's having to use his critical thinking skills while you're silent, right? Because when you're silent, then he has to address a change because he feels that change in your energy. Once he addresses that change in your energy, you can no longer have to be mad anymore and you can return back to being happy. Okay, now this for some of you might be painful to have this sort of contrast. And I know the same way you discipline your dog and you kind of feel bad for disciplining your dog because your dog's ears are all floppy and he looks all sad and you're like, oh my God, you were such a bad dog, but I hate putting you on timeout. No, you have to show him that contrast. when you're showing a man how to treat you, and I should even preface this by telling you, even at the very beginning, we need to show him this stark contrast between when he acts good and when he acts poorly or bad in this scenario, right? Because this stark contrast, you're going to be training him over the course of time that, hey, if you don't like receiving this silent, withdrawn energy from me, then you're going to be forced to make some changes. And remember, at the beginning of the show, I told you this show is not going to actually be about twisting men's arm to treat you a particular way. It's going to be about setting an environment in which men will only be able to get access to you, to be able to hear from you, to be able to see you, to be able to feel your love, to be able to feel your affection and attention if they choose to treat you correctly. Number 4 is about self-care. The reason it's about self-care is because something very important is happening from the moment a man meets you. When he meets you, he's actually, this is going to sound very silly, he's perceiving you. As he's perceiving you, remember how I said at the very beginning, perception is everything, because perception will change the way that he chooses to treat you, right? With perception, we want to be very clear. Self-care is important, right? And I have to be real with you. When you dress nice, when you're clean, when you're hygienic, right? All of these things matter. Now, I'm not saying you have to dress like an IG baddie. If you like looking like a goth girl and wearing fishnets, that's perfectly fine. If you like looking like a tomboy and you like wearing baggy streetwear, that's perfectly fine. But in that box of whatever aesthetic you choose to have, I still want you to look clean and hygienic, okay? There is no world in which men will be attracted to women who look dirty, okay? There is no world where men will be attracted to women who look like they don't take care of themselves, okay? The reason that I'm saying this is because I want you to make sure you're taking care of something that you can actually control. Because when men perceive you a particular way, which in this case is that you take care of yourself, right? He then says, okay, I've got to come correct. Now, some of you might be thinking, okay, so what are you actually saying, Tomisin? Are you saying that everywhere I go, I should care about how I'm perceived and I should take care of myself, even if I'm going to the grocery store, even if I'm going to the library, even if I'm going to the supermarket? Actually, yes. Yes, that's actually exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying be aware of how you're going to perceive every time you step out of the house. I'm not saying that you have to wear a dress everywhere you go. What I'm saying is be aware of how you're being perceived, because any one of the places you go out into the world, you could meet a man that wants to date you. That's honestly the honest truth, okay? Literally anywhere you go. And anywhere you go, we want from the very beginning his perception of you to be building as I've got to come correct, right? I don't even want a scenario, truthfully and honestly, I don't want a scenario where you go out into the world and you're like, oh, I'm bloated today. I look disgusting. I'm not going to take care of my hair. I'm not going to take care of my skin. I've got pimples everywhere. And you go out and like you look like a bum and then a man approaches you. I don't even want that for you, because I'm fearful that when he approaches you after seeing you look like that, his idea or perception of you, right, that he builds in his mind after perceiving you will be, oh, she's very low maintenance. She's someone I could literally get on the cheap. She's not someone I'm going to have to really, give too much to, because clearly she barely even takes care of herself, right? I don't want men, even from the beginning, building any sort of impression of you like that, okay? I know some of you hear that and think, well, doesn't that mean he really likes me? Doesn't that mean that he's actually into me, that he doesn't need me to be done up? Yes, cool. That's great in idea. But when he first meets you, we don't want him to be thinking, oh, you're so low maintenance, he doesn't have to do anything for you. Oh, you're so low maintenance that, he doesn't have to give you princess treatment. You're so low maintenance that he literally could just invite you over and expect you to sleep with him on the first night without him doing any work for you, right? We don't want that idea or concept building in his mind of you. Narratives are so important for men and people in general, okay? Point number 5 is about declining offers. Now, here's the thing that I want you to understand about treatment and perception. You have to be aware that everything you're doing from the very beginning is building a foundation for the rest of your life and the rest of your relationship with this guy. When you adopt the mindset that you make the decision to yourself, you are a princess and you deserve princess treatment, every word out of your mouth every decision that you make, every aesthetic that you have, everything has to align with that. So what does that mean here in the sense of declining offers? What you must realize is that if you want certain treatment by men, you're also going to have to show them that you only are looking to get certain treatment by men by saying no to things that don't align with the way you want to be viewed. Let me explain this in more detail. Let's say you have two different offers. One is to go to the zoo and one is to go to Netflix, right? The Netflix one is what we call low quality. From the very beginning, you want to be cognizant of what you're saying yes to and what you're saying no to. Because when he's building his perception of you, your ability to say yes or no to things is going to either align with his perception of you as a princess, as a goddess, as an everything, or it's going to kind of break that, I guess we can say, illusion that you are not a princess. You're just trying to pass yourself off as a princess, talk princess game. But then when it comes down to it, you're down for whatever. Okay, you're not going to be down for whatever, right? Because the same way the Netflix is low effort, right? Let's just say for the sake of example, he wants to plan out a zoo date with you, right? Which is more effort, right? It's not necessarily the most exciting thing, but it could be exciting depending on what you're into, right? It takes more planning. Why do I say all that in terms of offers, right? How do you decline an offer in a feminine way or at all? What do I actually mean by that? Whenever a guy presents to you an offer of, hey, you know, I like you so much, you can come over to my place and we can watch shows. You just politely say, no, thank you. And you don't explain yourself. You don't ask him or you don't say, hey, I would rather do this. You don't say, hey, why don't we go here instead? You don't say nothing. You just say, no, thank you. You can even put a smiley face, okay? You can do it like we're in the 2000s and just put the two dots with the parentheses, okay? You put a smiley face, no, thank you, and you leave it at that. And then if he asks you why, you say, not my cup of tea. That's all. Don't do so much explaining. Don't give a second option. Don't do none of that. No, thank you, smiley face. The reason I say that is because remember what I talked about at the beginning. In teaching men how to treat you, it's not about twisting their arm. It's about showing them there is only one road to success here when it comes to being with me and being in my life. The only road to success here is to treat me properly, which means the offers that you give me must actually be have some sort of value and have some sort of effort put in. If you would rather do this, perfectly fine. I'm not going to yell at you, not going to scream at you, not going to twist your arm. I'm just going to say no thank you, smiley face, and you won't hear from me. Okay, very simple. So you can choose whichever one you want to do. The choice is yours. Just know if you're going to be in my life, it's going to be because you treated me the right way. Point number 6 is about stories. Now, it kind of sounds like something I've said before when I talk about telling men stories of your life and what you've been through in order to show them something. You're going to do something similar to that, but in this sense. Remember how I talked about declining offers? I actually, when you meet a guy and you start chatting with him about your life and your history and your friendships and things like that, I actually want you to start telling him stories of different times in which you've declined what you consider to be low quality offers. So for example, let's say you go out on a date with the guy and you're chit-chatting with him about your life. Then you get to a point where you're telling stories about things you've been through with your friends. And you might say, yeah, last week they all, decided that they wanted to go to the strip club. And they wanted to, throw some money on some strippers. That was just the vibe that they were on. They wanted to go to the strip club with some guys. They asked me that, and I said, look, girls, I love you. I like spending time with you, but I ain't going to the strip club. They were mad about it. They complained. They said, oh, why you so boring? Why you so this? Why you so that? But I told them, look, that's not my vibe. That's not what I'm about. I'm not on that. So you guys enjoy yourself. Tell me how it was, but I'm not going to the strip club with you guys, right? That story will also show him that you are more than willing to decline offers that you don't feel fit you and who you are, that you don't feel fit your personality, that you don't feel fit your aesthetic. And this is all helping to build his perception of you, right? Because we're stacking all of these things on top of each other, right? You expect specific treatment because you think of yourself a specific way and your life aligns with the way that you view yourself. If you think of yourself as separate from low quality people and that you expect someone who's high quality in your life because you're a high quality individual, because you make good decisions of your life, because you have certain boundaries for yourself and what you'll choose to do and what you choose to not do. When you're telling him these stories, you're emphasizing that ideology. You're emphasizing that concept that certain places you do not belong. Certain places people will not find you, or they'll rarely find you there, right? I'm not saying that if you went to a strip club, you're a bad person. But what I am saying is these stories can help solidify and cement that idea. So then when you message him those things, when you tell him those things, now you're able to emphasize that same concept over and over again. Point number 7 is about treating. Now, what I want you to do, we're going to kind of apply this is going to be the Gen Z point. Because what I want you to do is I want you to treat yourself, but I also want you to document this. Now, we're not going to turn you into an IG baddie. But what I want you to do is I want you to say to yourself, okay, certain things I do want from a man, like taking me to fancy restaurants, taking me to the zoo, taking me to the aquarium, taking me to the whatever. I still want you to feel like you actually deserve that, even if you haven't received that, or feel like that's where you belong, even if that's not what you've gotten yet from a man before. So what I want you to do is some of the things that are on your list of places that you want to go or things you want to experience with a boyfriend or that you want him to do for you, I actually want you to take yourself to some of those places, right? You can take a girlfriend with you, save up some of your money, and I want you to treat yourself. Then when you treat yourself, I actually want you to document it, okay? So in today's explanation of that, right, what will that look like? That will look like stories. And I actually want you to post that. Then I want you to allow those stories to exist on your profile. Why? Because your profile is going to be the digital representation of you. Now, obviously, you don't have to be a content creator. I'm not asking you to do a whole bunch, post 20 times a day. All I'm saying is be aware that when you meet a guy finally, he will eventually go on your Instagram profile to build his idea of you or your whatever profile. And if we really want things to be cemented in his mind of his perception of you, that will then affect his treatment of you. Why don't we go ahead and make sure we cover all of our bases? So that when he even sees the digital representation of you and he sees you spending money, right? He sees you going out, right? He sees you having fun. All of these things will communicate to him, okay, this is clearly a lifestyle that she's used to living, right? It doesn't have to be super extravagant. It doesn't have to be Nobu every night. It could just be a representation of the things you want to do with a partner, the things you want a man to be willing to do for you if he's going to be in your life. When he sees that, it will all start to make sense to him that, okay, this is her vibe, this is her aesthetic, this is what she likes, this is what she's into. He's building that in his mind, and also it's helping him curate his approach towards you and make it very personal and interesting to you based on what you're already into.